Eso es todo lo que hizo. Sin visión, ni paciencia, ni idea. Estúpido, impulsivo. Así es como hice todo eso. No te diste cuenta, ni siquiera pudiste concebirlo. Y ustedes, los Salamancas, son peores parásitos que hay. Dicen que creen en sangre por sangre, pero solo entienden sangre por dinero. Son unas putas.
Hey, what is up? So for this video, I wanted to talk about the extremely important plot detail that we saw unfold in the previous episode of Season 6 of Better Call Saul entitled Point and Shoot, and that of course was the death of Lalo Salamanca. Now, without getting into the step-by-step blow-by-blow which led to Lalo Salamanca's death in this episode, which quite frankly is actually pretty hard to do since we really don't know where all of the characters' heads were at and what they were thinking, which caused the direct actions of these characters in this episode.
I understand. Blood for blood.
For this video, I instead want to focus more on why this plot detail needed to happen when it happened in the final season of Better Call Saul. And just so we really don't bury the lead here, Lalo Salamanca had to die because he was just such an impediment towards the continued progress of the remaining characters in Season 6 of Better Call Saul to reaching the point which we first saw them in the plot of Breaking Bad. Because as Gus Fring said himself in Season 5 of Better Call Saul in the episode entitled Magic Man, the construction on the Superlab could not continue until Lalo Salamanca was dealt with.
As long as Lalo Salamanca is on this side of the border, we cannot continue as we were.
So this is it?
No, this is not it. Once Salamanca is dealt with, and he will be dealt with, construction will resume.
And when this final confrontation happened in the previous episode of Lalo finally confronting Gus Fring in the Superlab, speaking only for myself, I knew for a fact that his death was going to happen in this scene. Because there's just no way that it would seemingly make any sense for after Lalo receiving all of this information from Gus Fring that he would be able to survive this storyline in Better Call Saul in a manner that wouldn't completely destroy Gus Fring's standing within the cartel. And as we actually know from Season 3 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled IFT, when this connection was originally established, we know that Gus Fring was in charge of the North Territory of the cartel. And if Lalo had outed him to Don Eladio and the rest of the cartel, there's no way this continuity would able to have been possible. Of course, at the same time, just as a side note here, this death of Lalo Salamanca's character really also changes our perception of this scene in hindsight, where we can see Hector Salamanca staring at Gus Fring, which, with the benefit of hindsight, this meeting here and Hector's reaction to it now incorporates everything that just happened over the course of Season 6 of Better Call Saul and everything that will likely continue to happen between these two characters following Lalo's death in the remaining 5 episodes of the series. On top of the fact that based on the continuity of Gus Fring's dialogue to Hector Salamanca in Season 4 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Crawl Space, where he says to him, "Now the Salamanca name dies with you,"
It was just you and Joaquin. He was the only family you had left. Now, the Salamanca name dies with you.
Any plot detail which contradicted this piece of dialogue would need to be extremely nuanced and complex theoretically in order to avoid this direct error in continuity based on this piece of dialogue, thus making Lalo Salamanca's death the most straightforward and necessary conclusion to his character in this episode. Additionally, following Lalo killing Howard Hamlin and Jimmy and Kim being in an absolute predicament in their apartment, at the exact same time, it seemingly would make no sense whatsoever how both of these characters would be able to survive this situation if Lalo Salamanca was still alive. And for that matter, after Lalo ties up Saul and tells him about what happened at his hacienda and says to him that after he gets back, they're going to have a little chat.
I'm gonna come back.
And then you are going to tell me the whole story.
just in my humble opinion, if Lalo was somehow able to survive and was victorious in his plan of destroying Gus Fring's standing within the cartel, once he finally got back to Jimmy and Kim's apartment, I just see no way whatsoever that Saul would have been able to survive this situation, where following Saul telling Lalo whatever information he could, he would absolutely likely be killed as a loose end, because Lalo would seemingly have absolutely no more use for him, and there's no way he would be able to let Saul go out and live the rest of his life, with Kim Wexler likely being killed as a loose end as well at the first given opportunity for Lalo. But of course, when all is said and done, this entire plot detail seems very unlikely due to the fact that Mike was able to rescue Jimmy at his apartment, on top of the fact that Lalo surviving all of this would have been an enormous error in continuity based on the backstory of Breaking Bad. Additionally, as another very interesting component of the storyline in the remaining 5 episodes of Season 6 of Better Call Saul, Saul's meeting in the desert with Walton Jesse, where he thinks that Lalo had sent men to kill him, now makes complete sense following Lalo telling Saul that Nacho Varga was the one who let men into his hacienda to kill people he cared about and attempt to murder him, where Lalo then told Saul that he had a great amount of suspicion towards him because Nacho was the one that originally introduced him to Saul.
Now, how did these men get into my home, do you know?
I have no idea.
Ignacio Varga. He let them in. And who did Ignacio introduce me to? You.
And of course, while Saul clearly thinks that Lalo was still alive in the desert in Season 2 of Breaking Bad, in the episode entitled Better Call Saul, when he's kidnapped by Walton Jesse.
Oh, no. No, it wasn't me, it was Ignacio. He's the one. Oh, no. Ay, siempre soy amigo. Siempre soy amigo del cartel. Shut up. I just speak English. Lalo didn't send you? No, Lalo?
Who?
Oh, thank God. Oh, Christ. Oh, I thought...
This dialogue now also makes sense due to the fact that Mike Ehrmantraut told Saul that Lalo Salamanca was going to die back in Season 5 of Better Call Saul in the episode entitled Something Unforgivable.
Now you listen and you shut up. This man has other things on his mind. He's not thinking about you. Lalo Salamanca is going to die tonight.
Tonight?
This time tomorrow, it'll be done.
But of course, following Lalo Salamanca going to Jimmy and Kim's apartment, thus making him realize that Mike did not have the best information, following Mike telling Saul at the end of this previous episode entitled Point and Shoot that Lalo Salamanca was not going to return, despite Saul saying that he told him he would.
Lalo said he was coming back.
He's not coming.
No, he said he was. He told me.
You understand me? He is not coming back. Let's sit.
It would absolutely make sense, in my opinion, that despite Saul now being told twice that Lalo Salamanca was either dead or not coming back, it makes total sense for him to have absolute reservation in regards to Mike Ehrmantraut's words here, due to the fact that Mike has already been wrong once. So when Saul is kidnapped in the desert, he could absolutely have thought that Lalo Salamanca was not dead, as Mike told him the second time he was, for all intents and purposes, which thus completely explains this dialogue following Lalo telling Saul that Nacho was the one who ambushed his men and his crew at his hacienda, and also insinuating that Saul had something to do with this as well.
Ignacio. Nacho? Whoa. I barely know Ignacio. Whatever he did alone, not with me. Listen, you gotta believe me, hand to God, I had no part in this. It wasn't me. It was the guy. Ignacio. No.
And so, yeah, with all that being taken into consideration, as Gus Fring said to Mike Ehrmantraut, with Lalo Salamanca now being dealt with, there's really nothing that hinders Gus Fring from finally completing the Superlab that we saw built completely in the plot of season 3 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Moss.
How did you know how to put this all together?
I had excellent help, as will you. Quite a lot of planning went into this.
I would say so.
Which of course now gives us an entirely different perspective of this entire storyline in the plot of Breaking Bad, where all the time we were seeing scenes in the Superlab. Lalo Salamanca and Howard Hamlin were buried there the entire time. And finally, just to wrap up this video, in respect to this plot of the Superlab, I have seen some people online note that Hank Schrader said to Steve Gomez in season 5 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Live Free or Die that they found 2 bodies in the Superlab, and I've seen some fans of Better Call Saul speculate that maybe these bodies were Howard Hamlin and Lalo Salamanca.
Where were the 2 bodies?
Over by the freight elevator. Over there.
No idea who they were?
No, not much left. Apparently the teeth do this popcorn thing when they get too hot. So they tell me. Whoever torched it did it upright.
String, you magnificent bastard.
But of course, these 2 bodies were actually the 2 henchmen of Gus Fring that were killed by Walter White prior to them burning down the meth lab.
Hey, I better hear him click.
What? You got a problem with stairs?
Gus is dead. We've got work to do.
And it's likely that these 2 bodies were not discovered due to the fact that they were buried deep in the ground and they had been decomposing for around 5 years by the time the Superlab had been torched. But then again, I suppose it is theoretically possible that these 2 bodies had been discovered and it was just not revealed to us on screen. Alright, that's all I really got for you guys on this one. As always, major thank you to everyone who watches and comments on these videos. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel. The support would really mean a lot. And as always, my name is Anton Jackson. Thank you again so much for watching this video.